everyone, welcome back. Long time no see. I know I took a little break trying to get my life together. You'll see a video about that soon enough. I'm a little nervous to make this video, to be completely honest with you guys, because I feel like this is a very sensitive subject and it is not my intention to offend anybody, because I know a lot of people were affected by the campfire, which happened a year ago today, the day I'm filming this, which I'll definitely get into in a minute, but I just wanted to preface everything saying I'm not here to hurt anybody that was affected by this. I know that this is a huge tragedy that has affected thousands and thousands of people, and I am sensitive to that. And I think it's important that as a Chico State student and as a person with an opinion, it's okay to talk about my experience and the way I feel that Chico and Chico State has changed in that year since the fire, because not very many people are talking about it, and I think it's really important. I do have a script to kind of give me a guideline of what to talk about, so bear with me. 1 year ago was the start of the deadliest and most destructive wildfire in California's history. It started on November 8th, 2018 at around 6:30 a.m. The fire started on Camp Creek Road in remote Polga, California, about 40 miles from Chico. By 6:45 a.m., the fire had grown to 10 acres, and fire resources were struggling to access the fire to begin to put it out. The fire burned west to Concow by 7 a.m. with no evacuation warning. By 7:20, Polga was evacuated by the Butte County Sheriff's Office. By 8 a.m., the fire hit Paradise. Most residents had fewer than 10 minutes to evacuate, trying to grab their family, pets, and valuables as fast as they could. Some residents reported evacuating their homes with the fire in their backyard. The emergency alert system failed to reach 94% of residents. By 10:45 a.m., the fire had burned through 22,000 acres. For myself as a student, we were not immediately notified. I didn't even have a Twitter, let alone follow the Butte County Fire Department or CAL FIRE. So I had no idea about a fire. That morning, I woke up to an email from my teacher saying that we had a take-home assignment and no class, to which I thought, sweet, I get to sleep in. I went back to bed. I was supposed to have 9:30 class. I probably woke up around 9:30 or 10. By the time I'd gotten out of bed, I knew that there was a fire because I took this picture and sent it over to my dad. But I had no idea of the extent of the fire. I mean, it's California. Fire season happens sometimes up until December, so it didn't really shock me that there was possibly a small wildfire nearby. At 9:15, we got a notification from the school that they were aware of the situation and that Paradise has been evacuated, but campus is still open. By 10:40, I was on my way to campus to go to therapy group, and I took some pictures of the sky because, I mean, it looked weird. It looked like the end of the world was coming because it was just one edge of the sky was completely blacked out and blocking out the sun at some point. And it was bizarre for sure, but I went to group therapy thinking nothing of it. At this point, the severity of the fire was not clear to us. No one had made us aware. The air was still breathable and everything seemed normal. And I was still getting emails from TAs saying, oh, we're still holding SI, nothing is canceled. At 5:30, the president of the school, Gail Hutchinson, finally sent us all an email saying that campus was closed the next day. And at this point, it became much clearer that, oh, this fire could be pretty serious. So she sent out an email saying that campus was closed November 9th, the Friday following. And in true Chico State fashion, we were like, cool, 3-day weekend. Awesome. I think I had a test canceled because of it. By 6 p.m., 55,000 acres had burned, taking out nearly all of Concow and Paradise, as well as neighboring Magalia. Thousands of residents tried to flee down Skyway, which is one of the main entrances and exits to Paradise and those surrounding cities. And it was so bad that people had to abandon their cars and flee on foot because tens of thousands of people in their cars all tried to escape down that same road. No one really talked about it. We were all like, cool, no school? I guess there's a fire nearby? I mean, maybe we're just uninformed, but we were under the impression like, oh, well, yeah, it's California. Like there's little fires all the time. So this is nothing. Thursday, we go to bed, no big deal, cool, 3-day weekend. And by the next morning, Friday morning, class canceled. The pictures and videos of people escaping paradise and the firefighters fighting the fire started coming out. And just tons of really heartbreaking and sad stories like that started coming out. And all of us were like, oh, this is a real thing. This isn't a fun day off. This is serious business. Hello. It is, you can't even see me. It's 10 a.m. on a Friday when I usually have class. And I don't have class because all of the surrounding cities and towns are on fire. And I've been near a fire before, like wildfire, because I live in California and it gets smoky and weird, but not like this. This is odd, and I don't even know, I don't know how to feel about it, because it's pitch orange out, and then this, yeah, there you can see the ash. But right now I'm going to get coffee because apparently that's what's important. Oh, I should turn my lights on since it's dark out. I feel like I walked into doomsday. This is surreal. This fire is currently at 70,000 acres. Last night it was at 20. Hello, God? Can you calm down, please? And not only that, but the fire got closer to Chico, and it kept getting closer to Chico. And all of us were like, is the school gonna burn down? Like, should we pack up emergency bags? There was ash raining from the sky like it was snowing, and it was freezing outside because the sun was completely blocked and everything was dark. Like it was 10 a.m. and pitch blackout. My boyfriend and I did quite a bit of driving around this morning because we didn't have class, and we had like this morbid fascination with like, I've never been in a natural disaster before. What is happening? And at this point, it just smelled a little smoky. The air was still breathable. Like the air quality was not horrific yet.
Here, but like over by my house, it's like raining down ash. Like my car is just covered in ash.
It's so weird. This, like, the sun must be, what, over there? Because that's the lightest part. I don't know if you can tell, but visibility was real low. By Friday evening, we got another email saying that class was going to be canceled the whole next week, and the week after that would be Thanksgiving, and we wouldn't be coming back until after Thanksgiving break. Classes are suspended until Monday, November 26th. So we basically had a 2-week plus 1 day Thanksgiving break. By that Friday, most Chico State students got in their cars and went home. All of the gas stations on Nord were out of gas. That Chevron right there, they're out of gas. And guess what? So is every other gas station in this city. Like, they were literally just shut down. They were like, sorry, we don't have any more gas. There would be lines for the gas station that still had gas left all the way down the street. So you couldn't even turn into the gas station parking lot. People were just trying to get out of the city and out of the state as fast as possible. At this point, I was still working at Home Depot. I was already scheduled for work Saturday. I think it was like a 5 p.m. shift. I would usually work 4 or 5 hour shifts, and they called me in at around 3. This was when the air quality really got bad, like unbelievably bad. They called me in early, or I guess they texted me in early. So that's what I'm doing. This is an ugly, okay, bye. Yo, this smoke is really real. Y'all, it is real life smoky out here. It's nuts. I mean, you can kind of see it, but like, and it's one of those things where you're just like, what? This isn't happening. Like, this isn't something that happens to me and my coworkers and friends at school in an area that I know. Like, I'm not near natural disasters. This idea of like, that fire is 10 minutes away from me. At one point was moving, I think it was a football field a second, and it got to the point where some Chico residents were evacuated, including a couple of my coworkers who showed me this picture of the view from their backyard. Crazy. I got called in early on this Saturday to go into work, and it was the first time I'd really been out alone and experienced the fire and talked to anyone other than my boyfriend, my friend Jacob, and my dad about this whole situation. I started to see the actual victims of the fire trying to live their lives. A lot of my coworkers lived in Paradise or Magalia and were suddenly homeless, living in shelters, living in other coworkers' homes, living in their cars. One of my coworkers, who I really considered a pretty close friend, Cody, found out that his car burned in the fire on the news. Like, he opened up an article and he went, "That's my car." Another one of my coworkers lost her childhood home. She was a Chico State student who was from Paradise originally. Not only did I have these coworkers who I have loved and known for about a year and a half at that time, I also had a bunch of customers coming in who were victims of the fire, who needed like everything. I bought packs of N95 masks, which are the ones with the air filter, and I was handing them out to people that would come in because I'm like, I can't make these people who just lost their homes pay the dumb price that they ask for these masks. It doesn't make any sense. A lot of people were trying to purchase air purifiers, and we ran out within the first couple of hours of the fire starting. My managers were trying to do everything they could to get more air purifiers from all over. I mean, by the third day of the fire, the smoke had drifted all the way down to the Bay Area. I believe that the reports said that it was Beijing levels of air pollution all the way from Chico down to the Bay Area, which is just like unheard of. So that was all happening. And that was really hard and really weird. And I'm one of those people who, like, at a certain point, my brain can't handle the sad, otherwise I'll be crying at work. So I tried to make it kind of fun, just a little fun. Like, obviously it wasn't fun for most people, especially the ones who lost their homes, but me and my other coworkers who had just been given 2 weeks off of school really tried to make the most of it, helping customers as much as we could and trying to keep each other sane while breathing in. I had one customer who told me I was breathing in dead bodies. So, I mean, you know, all you can do is be like, oh, I'm so uncomfortable. Me and my coworker Lexi actually ended up volunteering at the Butte County Humane Society. I don't know. They turned the Chico Airport into an animal shelter because not only did they find a bunch of pets after the fire had burned through Paradise, but they also had a bunch of people who brought their pets who were now homeless and didn't have a place to bring their pets in voluntarily. So me and my coworker Lexi were responsible for taking pictures of all the pets and then putting them up on the website so that if people had lost their pet, they could try to find them. You know, it wasn't all a waste. We tried to really be good people with this extra time we'd been given, but I mean, I found it super taxing because I absorb other people's problems. If someone else is like having a bad time, I feel it probably longer than they do. Like, I really absorb, like, every sad little animal I saw, that was my animal now. It was really sad. It was really sad. It was really hard to be around, and I wanted to help as much as I could, but I also, you know, could throw myself into a mental health spiral. It was definitely really difficult. So at a certain point with everything that happened, I don't even really remember much else other than just trying to get through it, be nice to these people who were coming in to Home Depot having lost their homes. I remember I had to help a lot of people print out like insurance paperwork. They were like, hey, I bought a washing machine 6 years ago from here, and now I want to tell the insurance people that what I bought. Can you help me? And I had to learn a bunch of systems of how to look up, like, oh, you bought this thing in 2012? Let's find it. I'm gonna help you. That was a really good thing for me, I think, because there's not much I can do. You know, I can't rebuild your house, and I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry. What? But being given something small and reasonable to be able to actually help with, I think helped my morale a lot, because I get depressed really easily. Also, I didn't see the sun. I mean, no one did. None of us saw the sun for like a week. And I already get sad in the winter anyway. Campus is shut down, so it's not like I could call up my therapist. Yeah, I felt really weird because I felt bad, but I also couldn't help anyone, so then I felt useless. And like I said, I really absorb everyone else's problems. I ended up leaving Chico and going to the Grand Canyon, which I do have a vlog of from a year ago. But in the span of 3 weeks, the fire burned 153,336 acres. It destroyed over 18,000 structures, evacuated 52,000 people, and there were 85 fatalities. So, I mean, the most destructive and the deadliest fire in California's history. Everybody that I knew from work who didn't live in Chico was evacuated. It was insane. With all this happening right near Chico, all these tens of thousands of people who are from the Chico area came to Chico and the other surrounding cities like Orland and Oroville and just tried to find whatever housing they could. All of the hotels filled up to like an insane amount. You don't see it that booked on Parents' Weekend or graduation even. Parking lots you've never seen full before, packed. The Walmart became a campground almost. They called it Wally World. Again, people having a little bit of a sense of humor in a dark time. It was hundreds of people living in this area next to the Walmart parking lot, which is just kind of a big grassy field. People were living in local churches, would open up as shelters, and there were people everywhere. There were people living in their cars. There were RVs parked all over the place. And you just really realized, oh, like, there's a lot of people that are just stuck until the fire's gone. Thanksgiving came and went, and I'm sure that was a really, really hard Thanksgiving for a lot of people. For a lot of people in Chico, it was just thankful to have their family around them. And it was weird. I mean, we came back from Thanksgiving break, and it was just business as usual now. And it felt like everyone was just acting like everything's fine, everything's normal. And I'm like, I don't feel normal. I don't feel fine. I was still going to work and hearing these awful stories of these people who live in the Walmart parking lot now. And people started getting norovirus because if one person poops and doesn't wash their hands and then touches the drinking water, then everybody has norovirus now. And there were a bunch of students in class who they were also personally affected, whether it was their families or their close friends or coworkers like myself or teachers. Hundreds of students, faculty, and staff lost their homes, or if they didn't lose their home, they couldn't go live back in it. Not only did they lose their homes, but they lost their communities. It was really sad. And it just kind of felt like everything was really quiet. We only had a couple of weeks left of school. Teachers were really lenient on tests and homework, which is great, because if anybody is like me, I mean, I was depressed and my stuff didn't burn down. And then at work, a ton of my coworkers left. Like, I just never saw them again. Fire happened and suddenly there were 5 fewer people working just in my department. Hello, where's my friend who I go to work with every day? And I had to pick up way more hours because there's all these empty spots and I'm trying to finish the semester without getting too sad. And then all of a sudden it's Christmas break and I'm going to Mexico. It just all kind of happened. And everything felt weird for months. After Christmas break, we really started to see the effect that the fire had on Chico. The fire was out, Wally World was shut down, the campsite outside the Walmart. At this point, most people had decided, like, okay, I'm moving to Sacramento, I'm moving to the Bay Area, moving to Chico. Some people moved out of state. People kind of got settled into their new life wherever it was that they ended up living. A small way that it changed is there was suddenly traffic where there wasn't traffic before. My drive to work would take 10 to 12 minutes. And all of a sudden it took 25 minutes. And I was late to work like every day. My manager pulled me aside and was like, what's going on? And I was like, all of a sudden it takes like 6 stoplights to go through it. Like, there's so many cars on the road. 20,000 people stayed in Chico. Chico became the fastest growing city overnight. You could tell there was never any parking anywhere anymore. Hotels were still full, traffic. And these are all little things that are manageable, things that are pretty innocent. But Chico also changed in ways that are way less fun to talk about. I would argue controversial almost. Things people don't love to say, but I feel like it's really important to talk about because I notice it and I want to be able to talk about it because I'm a person with eyeballs who lives here. Chico has always had a problem with drugs, with crime, with homelessness, and that's been apparent to me since I moved up here my freshman year. That was the first time I ever saw someone doing heroin, walking to 7-Eleven after math class my freshman year, and I looked over into a park and I was like, oh, that's a needle in someone's arm. Bye-bye innocence. Like, I'm 18, I don't know what I'm well aware that these problems are prevalent in Chico, in California, in all of the US. But something after the campfire really changed and everything really ramped up. I want to make this very clear. I am not saying that the victims of the campfire moved to Chico and then started doing drugs, robbing people, stabbing people, etc. I'm not saying that. Something happened though where all of a sudden violent crime increased by 48% in the matter of months. You went from feeling semi-unsafe walking around to, wow, this feels really sketchy all the time. There was one night where I was driving home and this whole apartment complex was blocked off by police tape and you could see tons of cop cars. And I was like, that's weird. Got home, Googled it, nothing. The next morning, more police, more tape. What is going on? A couple days later, 2 stabbings by the same guy, one at 10 p.m., the next morning at 7 a.m., in the same property, stabbed 2 different people. Not only did violent crime increase by 48%, but there was an increase in robberies by 68% and a 59% increase in aggravated assault. And it was everywhere. Like, you could tell. Jack's car got broken into at least a dozen times. There were sometimes people going through the trash before the fire. There were dumpster divers every day now. They were in every apartment complex. People's bikes disappeared at an alarming rate. For myself, I knew it was really real when I drove home one night and I pull into my driveway and I had an automatic floodlight and a transient looking man was beating a woman and had like a bloody nose, and I had to call the police at like 3 a.m. on a Saturday saying, hey, I'm at my house. There's a guy and there's a lady. It wasn't just like happening in my city. It was happening in my yard. I was totally convinced that someone was gonna murder me for a while because I'm an anxious person, and if it's happening around, it's happening to me. And not only did crime increase, and like the homeless population really seemed to increase, but housing really became so difficult to find. Which makes sense when you have a city with one set population for years, growing at a small rate, and then you just throw in, it grew by 20,000 people in a day, basically. And housing prices from November to December of 2018 increased by $100,000. And they stayed about the same the whole time. So there's a huge housing boom. Everybody was buying houses. Suddenly there's no houses on the market. Apartment complexes that were previously seen as student only almost entirely rented out to people between 18 and 22 had families living in them. I remember going to my friend's apartment and there were 12-year-olds skating in the parking lot, and I was like, whose 12-year-old little brother is here? And she's like, oh no, that's the family that lives here now. And just you're like, oh wow, it's really not like a college community anymore. In Chico, most leases follow the school year, so they will usually start in August and end in July, or start in June and end in May. As soon as it became time to re-sign those leases or to sign a new lease in a different apartment complex, because demand had gone up, so did cost. Cost increased anywhere from $50 to $150. I think in California they can only increase your rent by so much if you're already living there, which this isn't confirmed, but I have a sneaky suspicion that that's why I was asked to not renew my lease so that he could charge a higher lease, which is how I ended up living here. Funny enough, my old place didn't even get rented out until like a month ago. I'm like, I could still be living there. So even now, a year later, we're still seeing all of this still happening. There's always been homeless in downtown Chico, but it feels like they're everywhere. And it feels really, really unsafe walking around. I'm sure that the Chico police try to do everything that they can, especially with the time change. Now it gets dark while I'm in class at least 2 days a week. I don't want to get mugged on my way home, okay? There was a lot of, especially on-campus stuff right after this, a lot of like cars being stolen out of the school parking lots. Lots of like, oh, I was walking home and someone stole my phone and ran away. People getting mugged. It's a weird situation to be in because you want to have sympathy for these people that lost their homes, but you can't help but kind of blame the fire and this tragedy on the way that the city has changed and the way that the school has changed, because it's almost like no one wants to admit like, hey, things are weird and I don't feel comfortable. Which is why I kind of felt like talking about it. Like, I know Chico did a whole, like, a year later since this person's house burned down. And I think that's really important. Those are good stories to tell. It's something that's been on my mind since, I don't know, March, when I first saw that statistic about 48% increase in violent crime. And I could never find the right way to talk about it that's not going to make anybody mad. And then I kind of accepted not everyone's going to like the stuff I put out on the internet. Luckily, there's not that many of you, so maybe not that many people will see this. I want to reiterate that I don't mean this with any malice towards the people who did lose their homes or their communities or family members or the firefighters or anybody who was affected by this. I truly have empathy in a way that's probably too much. I think it's something that people should talk about, people should be able to talk about. And I know a lot of you who watch this go to Chico State, some of you are new students, and I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on how you were affected by the fire, if at all. Everybody who had to be here dealt with it in one way or another as best they could. I hope this came across properly because I think it's really important and I think it's really interesting to see the way that a city reacts and a community reacts to a fire like this, a big natural disaster like this, as well as the way like the campus responded. Thank you for watching if you've made it this long. I hope that you took from this what I intended, which is honest to God, no ill will. I will see you next time with something good, I hope. Bye.